Welcome to the Journal of Biophilic Design podcast.
Well, thanks for joining us today on the Journal of Biophilic Design. We're media sponsors of a new event, the NetZero Workplace, taking place on the 7th of July at the Cavendish Conference Centre in London. And it's followed by Drink Social. We did a great interview with Jeremy Campbell and Ian Baker of MCOR, who were speaking at the event as well. And we are with a completely different vibe. We are really thrilled to be joined today by Anicee Bauer. She's an environmental psychologist and design professional, and she's also founder of Humans in Trees, a fantastic concept, which she's going to tell us about. Anicee is also speaking at the event, and her title is How to Design Sustainable Habitats for Sustainable Habits. Now, this is completely up my alley. I just love this. I love the fact that we're going to be talking about Aristotle's concept of eudaimonia, biophilic design, revolutionizing the workplace to support net zero targets. Anicee, many thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Yeah,
that's lovely. Well, first of all, maybe you could explain what Humans in Trees is. It's a great name for a business. Can you explain maybe where the name came from, and what you do there, please?
Sure. Yes. And I'd like to show you a picture of mine that I recently came up, and I really love it.
Oh, that's so nice.
Here's my dad, and that's me. So there you go. You have it, Humans in Trees. But I think it was a little bit of a development for me. I first wanted to call myself like ambassador of nature, or like embassy for nature, stuff like that. But then I noticed that I wanted more sort of a playfulness in the name. Yeah, for some reason I came up with the Humans in Trees, and for me it's symbolic and means three things. First of all, the playfulness, that what you just saw, but also the remembering how we were as a child, like in contact with nature, real close to it, and having really fun to be out there, and also maybe risking stuff, and just having fun climbing around and playing with each other and close to nature. But second, it's also very symbolic for if you climb up a tree, your perspective of things change, right? And that is for me a very important element, that you see that you're part of a greater whole, that you have more of an overview, and that you understand more your place in the world. And thirdly, it's more of a spiritual take on the name, because eventually if we understand that everything is connected, you should be able to see yourself as well in a tree, like in a mirror, because you are also connected with the tree. It's the same source, at least that's how I understand it now. Yeah, so those are the three symbolic meanings behind it. And one thing to add up is that I'm sort of obsessed with tree houses. And when I'm grown up, I really want to live in a tree house, and that is my sort of dream. And there you have it, the literal meaning of the name.
I love that. I'd love to live in a tree house as well. I've seen some amazing ones. There's places you can stay, and I really must do it. I think it's wonderful. So what is it? If you could explain maybe a little bit about what exactly you do. Yeah.
Well, since I knew that I was leaving the job where I've been working for 7 years, it was at an interior architect here in Amsterdam. I, of course, searched for what my mission would be in life, because I felt I couldn't really grow into my potential there. Working for someone is really totally different than working for yourself, and being able to really, get out there into the world, what wants to be, transferred through you. So and of course the whole sustainability issues that also I thought it's much more urgent than trying to get people who have a good office get even a better office. So that I lost a sense of urgency. Maybe it's typical at that age, I don't know. But I got the opportunity then to write a book chapter for the book which has been published in January, The Human Office. And I wrote a chapter for that book on my vision on how to obviously get us more towards a sustainable lifestyle. But then I dug deeper into the issue of like, what is the, what I call it, the source of all evil? Like, how did we get here in the first place? You know, that was for me first important to answer before I could answer, what can I do? You know, how can I contribute to solving those issues? What is there to solve? That was my, the search, the question I had. And what I came up with, for me, it's simple actually, but it's our distorted relationship with nature. Because if we understand what I just explained, that everything is connected, that we are part of nature, that we are nature, then it follows for me automatically that we would make different choices on a daily basis and really do things differently. So for me, it's the same with the lack of spirituality. Yeah. And that led to my sort of mission to let people fall in love with nature again. So that is what I'm set out to do. And I see myself a little bit as a gardener, to plant seeds. And then hopefully, you know, some seeds will flourish and come to nice flowers that embrace this sense of spirituality and interconnected with all living things, which is obviously literally the meaning of biophilia. Yes, that my hope is that through my work, I can, you know, plant the seeds and make the world again to more spiritual understanding. And I'm doing this in a number of ways. First of all, I love to inspire, and I love to make really inspiring presentations, and hopefully I will succeed at the network, at the zero, what's it called again? I'm sorry. The workplace.
Yeah, NetZero, the NetZero workplace. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have another opportunity to do it there, and I'm really excited to be there finally in person again. Then I inform. That is something I've done for several years now, to give it design advice for, it can be companies, but it can also be architects. I recently have done it at a camping. The camping wanted to be more sustainable, to make also the more inspire people to be more sustainable, and I have to give all kinds of advice how to be doing that on this camping site. That was super cool to do. Wow. And I also give ideation workshops, and that is, ideation is part of a design thinking method. And I just picked out the cherry piece of it because I really love to have fun with crazy ideas and to make connections between things that haven't been connected before. And this is typically, of course, where you get the innovations, but always within the realm of biophilic design, because that is my love, of course, for design-wise as well, what I really believe in. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, the last thing, the new core for me is my workshop series and I call it Designing for a New Earth. And that is really also what I'm going to talk about at the conference. And the core of this work is to ignite the personal and spiritual development of people. And that is also where this two ways of designing comes from in my mind, because designing the physical environment, the outer landscape, I'll call it, then that's one thing. And it can play a really big role in how people behave. I totally support that, but then I think it's not enough. I think it's not enough. And that's why I really also have embraced now and developed something to build biophilic habits, like biophilic behavior, so that people understand that that they have to change something in their inner landscape as well, to and then they can, you know, function as a really powerful tool together to shift our consciousness, and then again also how we do things, and how we live our lives.
I love that. I love that. Change our inner landscape as well. I think that's a really nice way of putting it. And biophilic design should just not just be about your environment, says the cat walking past, and if you can see it in the picture there. But it's also about, it's about how you live your life, how you choose to, you know, your choices, and actually inside you, and that reconnection with spirituality. I mean, you've touched on, you know, obviously one of the main things of biophilic design is to bring nature wherever people are, wherever you are, you know, and obviously you're passionate about the environment, obviously. Do you, I mean, and you've actually sort of touched on this, but how do you think encouraging a physical connection and an understanding of nature will also actually help us protect our natural environment? So kind of like, you know, on the sustainability, biodiversity kind of messaging, how do you think that will inform our choices maybe?
Yeah, so I think your audience is probably well aware of the powerful effects of biophilic design as it is, right?
Yeah.
But I have also seen studies, maybe that's not known for many people, but that biophilic design also can stimulate pro-social behavior and trust and empathy on employees. And so we get more friendly and generous and helpful towards one another. And I think that is also like a really powerful effect of biophilia. I think we should focus more on this social aspect of health, and less the trend is of course like the physical health and happiness and productivity, and in the end that is quite linked to money in the end, if it comes down to, if you want to follow it, but we should be more idealistic, I think, in that sense of how we design. Biophilic design has also been found to have an effect on that people want to behave more sustainably, because biophilia increases the affinity with nature, because if you are surrounded by nature, and it's also, of course, the evolutionary phenomenon of biophilia, that we are predisposed to want to be in contact with nature, though it increases that. And then something develops that you want to care for nature, because you understand it's also the same that you care for yourself. And I really like that moment of awe, that you know, if you're in a forest and you look up and then you see like, whoa, this sort of there's more than that, and you are feeling almost overwhelmed. But yeah, that it's important to create moments of awe, that you understand that, like sort of almost a magic moment that people have when they have those moments, and that is a beautiful way of feeling humble again, and understanding that the world doesn't evolve around you, me, but us. We are all, you know, the more of a focus of to the collective and to the social surroundings and animals, all those things that get sidetracked sometimes. I'm not sure if it's answered your question.
No, it has. And I think, I mean, I often talk about awe, and I think that's one of the wonderful aspects of biophilic design. When you're looking at nature and you get that jaw-dropping, wonderful feeling in your heart and in your mind, and it just like it's almost overpowering sometimes, isn't it? If you go, people get that feeling, that awe feeling, when they go walking in mountains or walking in a forest, like you say, and you look up, and you actually said that you went, oh wow, you know, that is that, and we're trying to conjure that in our workplace. Really does change our sort of concept, I suppose, of how we live. It was really interesting that you said also there's promoting the social aspect as well. You know, if we're surrounded by nature, then we're more social, we're more trustworthy, you know, we trust other people, and there is that sort of social messaging as well. So I think that's really good. You're going to be speaking at the NetZero event. I'd like to talk a little bit about that, how to design sustainable habitats for sustainable habits. I mean, you sort of have touched on it here, but maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you're going to be saying, and also, yeah, how can we do that? I mean, how, especially in the workplace. I mean, yeah. In a nutshell, you know, sort of, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I also thought, like, I mean, if we can answer this question, we have found the holy grail, sort of.
No, exactly. So no pressure, pressure, you know.
But to me, it really feels like I have found the answer, seriously.
Yeah.
And it's a long way to get there. But for me, it's just, yeah, what I said earlier, the simple answer is, but of course, there's many ways to get there. And I have chosen now my way, in the sense of having this inner and outer landscape and letting them click. And I've tried to, now I work with a 3-layer model.
Yeah.
And the basis of my approach is actually the quote by Albert Einstein: we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. And the key message for me is here, the same thinking. You know, we have to change our thinking, let go of old paradigms and old belief systems. And that is for me at the core.
Yeah.
Cat coming from that. Sorry.
The cat's coming. My cat's coming downstairs again. Is it?
Yes. So in the core, we have what we believe, and that to me is sort of what drives us, what drives also our behavior. So, and that is basically, we have to re-believe in the spiritual side of things. That is also something what is very evident in science. You know, we have brought up with a sense of, first I need to see it, and then I can believe it. Yes. But actually, we should maybe throw this around, like make the switch and believe it, and then you will see it, because we can create what we can see then. And that is just such a powerful thing to understand. And not that I'm a master manifester, far from it yet, but this is actually what I think we should be much more open towards, to accept it, that there's a different way of doing things. So first, belief in the spirituality, to rediscover our spirituality. The second layer around it, then I call from belief, what we believe we become. That is our sort of, and I call it this layer, the authentic heart. We should, and I do that, I try that then in my workshops. That's the theme of each workshop. To become aware of our own truth, to also dare to speak from our hearts, to dare to deviate from the masses, because we are afraid maybe that if I only do that and everybody else does that, that must be wrong. No, we have to, you know, get access to our intuition again, and yeah, be able to communicate as well how we think about things. And that takes a lot of courage, and but in the end it is so empowering, and you know that, because you can make sincere decisions, and that will not make you sick in the end. You know, it's also all that stress, because we keep going a certain direction that gets us further away from our own identity, from our own authentic heart. And that, I think, is that's the most dearest theme, or like the object to me, because I feel such a power in this, to in the end live your honest and free and authentic life. And in the outer layer, then that's what we mostly focus on, from the become, the behaving. And that is the eco-authentic lifestyle, as I call it. And I mean by that we can create a lifestyle for ourselves that honors our ecological self and our authentic self, you know, that and that is also that we act on our own authority, as opposed to a lifestyle that has been imposed on us, and that we often also fail to critically review or verify for ourselves again, because we just, take it for granted that that's how we do things in this society. And it's true, and it makes a lot of things more easier, but I think it's worth looking at ourselves, like, why are we doing this? And that is where I teach people how to integrate new habits in their lives, but also make them last, because if you do things out of a guilt feeling, or because everybody does it, you will never be able to really sustainably be able to execute this habit. And that's, I think, the power of asking ourselves, why am I doing what I'm doing, and why am I not doing what I want to do? So these are the habits and the habitats that then I will explain in the presentation. Each layer has one habit that I address in a workshop form, and each layer has 2 habitats, like 2 design strategies, if you want, that can support this new habit or the thematic of each layer, like spirituality, your authentic heart, and the eco-authentic lifestyle. So, and then, in the end, I hope to create then a synchronized flow between them, between habits, the inner landscape and the outer landscape, the habitats. Sort of a model.
So can you maybe give us a bit of an example, like, for instance, in the workplace, of what, like, one of the design strategies could be, for instance, to kind of to facilitate one aspect of one of these layers or something, just so that people can understand a little bit about where you're coming from, sort of thing.
I can also quickly name them. I mean, in the eco-authentic layer, it's sustainable design, which is commonly known as like the BREEAM and the LEED certificates, all that stuff around that, sustainable technology, and biophilic design, which is obviously very well known in this audience. And in the authentic heart layer, I've differentiated between authentic design and ritual design. And for instance, authentic design is something, it means designing for empowerment. The design should encourage people to be themselves, which is celebrates diversity and the beauty of imperfection. That comes from the Japanese principle of Wabi-Sabi. You probably have heard that. Like, nothing lasts, nothing is finished, and nothing is perfect, because in this way it really acknowledges, in my mind, authenticity at its core. So many times we see that designers really, make it like a showcase scenario. And I've actually heard somebody say that the architect was like, the day before the people would go into the workplace, like, it's such a pity that tomorrow the people are coming in here because they're gonna mess it up,
Yeah, exactly.
That's so funny. I mean, that's typically. But the authentic heart layer, or like the authentic design, and that has more to do with the methods. You can also think, especially in the workplace, it's participatory design. Involve people in the design process. Let them personalize their workspace, or like the office space, and let them also adapt it to their changing needs. That would be one of the examples. And the ritual design is more about giving the opportunities for people to engage in activities that let them go further in their spiritual and personal development. That can be active, like more passive activities like meditation, but also active activities like yoga, singing and dancing together, making music. That's also not a lot of times you see that in offices. Yoga and meditation, yes, it has found its way into office spaces, but to really also address this in the work culture, to go within, to slow down, and to really explore your inner landscape. That is, I think, I don't really see that. That it's really in the work culture as well, that you find it in really the daily schedules or whatever, it's like rush from meeting to meeting, and there's enough companies that still are pushing themselves to fill every minute of those 8-hour days, and I think that's quite sad. I don't think I could go back to that.
No, me neither. I couldn't. I love the freedom of being able to come and go and do what I want to do. Sometimes it's like really manic, and just like recently, this last month, it's been just full on, and then you get a month when it's like lighter. But I have the choice. I have the choice to take which clients I want on, and all that kind of thing. And it's a freelance life, but actually being inside an office, doing and being told and to behave in a certain way, and just be constrained by certain desks and everything. I couldn't do that. I've had too much freedom, I think, and I'm flourishing, to be fair. So so I wish you luck with the project. I think it's wonderful, and the fact that you're doing it through workshops as well, I think people will see the difference and feel. The important thing is, like you just mentioned, is actually they will feel the difference, and it will improve their mindset and everything, so that workplaces will become better places where maybe you and I will want to go back to and actually work in, so imagine your space there. People who are listening to this should just go onto YouTube or in the journal of biophilicdesign.com and have a look at the podcast and see the video that's accompanied this, because you've got an amazing space there, the plants and the trees and everything, and it's lots of natural materials, and it's just inspiring, so even if you take a screenshot and try and aspire to where Anicee is working in your home workplace, I think that's definitely a thing to do. I wanted to also talk about, because we're still talking about the workplace, because we're talking about the NetZero event, the NetZero Workplace event in London on the 7th of July in 2022, for people who are listening to it next year. You've recently published an article on the Eudaimonic Workplace. Obviously, I love the fact that it's Aristotle's concept of eudaimonia, and it's a key to pulling all this together. And it's a concept of human happiness and flourishing and well-being. Can you explain maybe what your vision for it was, and especially in the workplace, and why is it important as well?
For me, I think it started with me thinking about values, because I got intrigued by sort of this thought of how did we get into this misery in our planets when we have values, which is per definition something good. A value is valuable, it is of value. So how did we get here? And then it's more like it's not that we pursue the wrong values, but there's an imbalance there, because we put too much emphasis on values that are beneficial for the individual versus values that are beneficial for the collective. And so for me, it's looking for a concept that would restore that balance. I think that was my search, which led me to eudaimonia. And that concept is asking more meaningful questions in the sense of what is worthwhile in life, and also there's a sustainability a factor per definition already in that concept, and what is the purpose of life, and that and then Aristotle then came up with this answer that living a life that is aligned with intellectual and moral virtues. And there is exactly something that intrigued me, like virtues versus values. That is an interesting thing, If you compare those two, you see that values are more locally considered to be good or desirable. And but that doesn't mean that they are per definition morally good, because they are created internally, like by our own design. everybody has different values in the sense like, oh yeah, I think it's important to be the first, competitive, really, you know. But so they can really be very subject to change in the sense of how you've been brought up, what kind of a religion you are following. You know, everybody gets led by those factors and creates their own set of values. Virtues, on the other hand, are like universally considered to be good, you know, and they are more accepted to have a high moral value as well, and because they're created externally, and that makes it much more stable and not so subject to change. And I understand that virtues and values, like the line between them is like thin. It's very debatable which is which. But then again, I came up to that question, like that we should ask ourselves much more frequently, who actually benefits from my subjective values and the behavior that emerges from them? And that is, I think, a very interesting question that for us all to ask ourselves and to think about much more. Because it's in the end, it comes down to what person do I want to be? And, you know, and that is what eudaimonia sort of encourages us to think about, again, go into your inner landscape and challenge yourself at your core, like who are you in your character, and make an effort, an active effort to change your inner landscape if it doesn't, if it's not what you want to be. And yeah, it can be very uncomfortable, and that's why a lot of people don't even go there, start with it, but also because they don't have the time and the mental room in their head, which I totally get, because what, you know, when we push ourselves to fill every minute of our day, and also with a family, I understand that there's no room in your mind to also think about yourself, to go within. Yeah, you have better things to do, and like better things. To me, there's nothing better you can do, but it's yeah, it's something that doesn't get enough attention. And with the Eudaimonic Workplace, I try to give a different set of values for the workplace as well, but that also needs to be integrated somehow in the work culture, in the company DNA, and that is, for instance, also something that we see in greenwashing. You know, this effect of greenwashing is that because people or like companies feel obliged to take words in their mission statement, like clean, green, sustainable, you name it, everybody has it, you know, in these days. But then those words often just live a quiet life on paper because it's just not integrated in the DNA and the identity of the employees, or just like a few things. I've seen it with my own workplace where I used to live, or used to work.
You know, you feel like you live there sometimes, don't you? Yeah.
But I'd love to contribute to getting this integrity again in balance, that you know, that companies make conscious choices, and you know, like, okay, I commit to this, but not to that. Because you cannot do it all, you know, and just be honest and with what you set out to do and what it's not for you, you know. It's like what is imposed on us, and what do we feel we have to follow, and we feel we have to talk about. But it's again, that also, it takes courage to not want to do it all and not feel guilty about it. And that's also a huge aspect that we should really get rid of, the feeling of guilt that I don't know, that I don't collect my plastics or whatever, you know. And I'm not saying don't care about it, you know, but we can only do so much, and you know, do the best you can. And the fun factor is also a very important thing we tend to forget, because something that is fun, that you commit to do. For instance, I've now for the very first time planted some seeds for greenery, greens, like vegetables in my garden. every day I look at, oh, there's like a leaf coming out, like the courgette, the zucchini now showed up yesterday, and it's great, and that is something that can really add something to your life, and then you stick with it, and that is something that really also needs to be, I think, rectified with this whole greenwashing idea. And I think it's possible to get back our integrity. And
I think that's a really valid point, actually, and the whole concept of what you're doing there, humans in trees, is bringing that fun factor back. And if people listening to this, if they think about what they really love doing, you do stick to the thing that you love doing, whether that's eating chocolate or whatever else it is, but you do it because it makes you happy. Growing little flowers, I mean, whatever it might be for you, going out for walks in nature, growing plants indoors, having natural wood furniture, designing your home, painting your walls, what is it that's really makes you happy? And once you do one thing, it kind of snowballs, because once you've got something natural in your life, it's weird, you want more, because your brain goes, I like this, I want more, this makes me feel good, this is making you feel good, go get more. So from the psychological aspect, combining the environmental with the internal, like you just say, the external and the internal landscapes, absolutely fantastic. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to get workplaces to take this on board, into the everyday workplace? How are we going to do it?
I think everything is possible if you feel a sort of urgency, and of course, again, that's a holy grail question. On the one hand, I believe we need more people who dare to be visionary. If you believe in that, that you just build your business around different virtues or values. And that to me also means having the spirituality built into your business model. There's also a lot of research about the spiritual workplace. And if it helps, okay, we can really look at the sort of productivity and money issues that that is one of the benefits of a spiritual workplace. But I think in itself, it should be enough to believe in the spirituality, because it does bring about a feeling of being connected, to having a purpose, a sense of belonging, to have a higher power that protects you, supports you. And for me, that also means that in your work situation, you understand much more your purpose. And that is, of course, the intrinsic motivation we are all looking for. If I wouldn't believe in my take on things now, I couldn't be doing this, and that is like a powerful drive of everything basically we do. And imagine a workplace where everybody, feels their purpose and, is in their power, and also gets and encouraged to go inside and, strengthen your inner purpose from a spiritual leadership model as well. And I've also explained that in this chapter. That is like something that can really put that really can create and form a company if the leader has a spiritual aspect to it, and encourages this way of living and teamwork with each other in a daily basis. And that is sort of the purpose of driven company that is in the workplace important, but also a lifestyle that gives you the space, or like the work style that gives you the space to go within, and aiming really for continuous personal growth, also in your work, to be at the place and in your potential that is right for you. to really make an effort of checking once and again if it's still what you want to do. And other aspects of other benefits. There's a lot of literature, more than probably people would expect, on the benefits of a spiritual workplace, and that it goes from better teamwork to mental and physical health, and also as a remedy for work stress and frustration, because it makes sense. I mean, it's just 1 and 1 is 2. If you have your purpose and you can be yourself, then there's no need to feel so much frustration or work stress or getting disengaged and being there but not really being there, and that I think would really be also the remedy of for burnouts or chronic disease in that sense. And that is also something that I really want to follow, that burnouts or all those things, this lack of spirituality in the workplace. And it always seems so vague and shady, and that's also a really interesting thing that I thought about. Like, I want to do something with this, maybe a podcast on spirituality. Like, how do people see it? What the misunderstandings about it? Because several times I've had that with that people. I wouldn't call it spirituality because that gives people a wrong the religious aspect to it. I think it's detrimental to the concept as it is. But then I called it a while nature awareness. But in the end, I was like, geez, I should be able to say it, because that's just the word for it, I think. So it's interesting how much resistance there is for a lot of people, and that I think that I understand a little bit that this could be my sort of mission, because there are a lot of people who embrace spirituality, but how do we get it into the workplaces that reject it? And that for me is the challenge that I have set out to embrace, and it's going to be interesting.
Well, I wish you luck with it. I think it's really interesting. I think it's a semantics, isn't it? It's words, it's choice of words, it's vocabulary. Like you say, you use the word spirituality and people just immediately assume religion, and therefore taking away choice, whereas actually the spirit is like eudaimonia. Daimon is the spirit. It's inside, isn't it? It's your brain, it's your mind, it's your purpose, it's your energy, it's all of that thing. So it's the internal spirit, it's the spirit of you, isn't it? It's that spirituality within you, which and it's the spirituality, energy, whatever you want to call, like you say, it's a difficult term, isn't it? Really, our connotation, our assumption with that term, with the word, can have with some people have negative memory or negative things, but like you say, you need to change that mindset because it comes from within. It's eudaimonia, it's the daimon, it's that spirit within us. So good luck for that. Talking of which, the workshops that you do obviously really encourage people to look within themselves, and also to connect with nature. I've just got a question for you. How do we really get people to see nature? How do we do that?
Well, I have obviously built some exercises in these workshops, and I don't have the answer, of course, but I found a nice fun way sometimes to get people to get different insights, and including me, by the way. There's the workshop that I give in the core, like I call it Rediscovering Our True Relationship with Nature. And I'm doing exercises like a role play or acting out our relationship, position ourselves towards a tree, like what's your, making also a little metaphorical and symbolic play around it. And I do guided meditations and mindful leveling exercises with a tree. And I haven't done a tree hugging, but hey, could be something to look at. I use the silence and the sounds of nature, and then also I let people play nature, like personify nature, because that's our way of communicating. And sometimes it's not new for us to listen to nature or to feel something energy-wise. We don't have that connection anymore. So let's start with really communicating. And then the person, which is the human, and the nature, which is also a person, but just impersonating our nature, they have a talk with each other. And then interesting things have happened, because also to me, when I first did it, because we were an uneven number of participants, so I had to join in this exercise, and I was surprised how inferior and guilty I felt towards nature. As I was talking to nature, it's like, oh, I feel so powerless, and I long for you, stuff like that. And that is not a good way to be partnering up, if I feel so inferior. And that was, for me, it was an eye opener, because of course, afterwards I felt like more did my research more, and also getting into my inner landscape to understand more that I am also nature, and then another time when I again did that exercise with someone, I had a totally different experience, like that. It's more like an equal partnership, and then nature also talked back in a different way, like I'll be okay, don't worry about me, it's good that you're here, it's all good in that sense. And that person who played nature, she was also surprised that what she said in her role as nature, she also felt like she was telling herself. So it's an interesting exercise what it does with people. And or like if you look at the tree, and metaphorically you see the dead branches, and then one person sees it as so like the dead branches, they belong to the tree, like, and just like my imperfections belong to myself, like to see the similarities in nature and us. And while I had something like, oh, dead branches, that means I need to clean up my shit. It's a different ways to play around with it and to interpret things and that's very inspiring, at least to me, to play around with those exercises in nature and see what comes up how in different people as well. You never really can predict it, but it's fun to see what's happening.
Wonderful. Really, really wonderful. Obviously we're coming to the end of the podcast, and I'm just conscious of the time here, so just before we go, I'm going to ask you the final question about I ask everybody at the end, but is there anything that you would like to add, Anicee? Is there anything else that you would like to share with us at all?
Yes, because I had also, we should also look at more aspects like forest bathing. That can also help, that to add up to the question the last one you asked, or what I also love, like some more, and we should make it more a mainstream, maybe like those vision quests to spend the night in the forest.
Oh yeah, wow.
Also really reconnect people to nature, but also of course change our educational system, that nature gets a much more prominent place in our curriculum. And there's also a lot of literature around natural playgrounds, for instance, for children. And just to name an incident of mine, I was camping in a forest that was sort of like a scouting space with my hammock. And my sister visited me with her two nephews, and those two nephews, I think they were 6 and 10. I sort of felt shocked almost that they got bored in this, on the sense, like they were looking for a real playground with a slide or swings, and that really I don't know, made me quite sad to understand this that we have been quite lost our connection with nature. And you probably know the book, the Last Child in the Woods or in the Forest. I call my nephews the lost children in the forest, because they don't know what to do with it, and that is quite sad. That we also not accept nature as it is, like if it's raining, we get annoyed and people get sort of really like strict gardening. That's also a thing. The weeds, no, they don't belong there, like says, and we are scared of nature, and that's also something we should maybe address more. Like, there's nothing to be scared of, and I'm not talking about tsunamis and stuff like that, of course, but so that's a little bit more of those things that came to mind when I thought about this. How can we reconnect to nature?
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. I think it's really, really true. Being able to have a positive relationship with our natural world, by bringing it in through biophilic design, through engaging with it, and I actually really love the fact that you can, and the words you've used there about your inner landscape. You connect the outer and the inner, and do it through nature and through communing with yourself, your thoughts, and also with the natural world. So so we've come to the end, and I don't want to let you go, so I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the 7th of July in 2022 at the Cavendish Conference Centre at the NetZero Workplace. So people, if you're listening, I'm going to put a link on the bottom of the podcast, so please do join us there. But the final question that I ask everybody on the podcast, and I think this is my favourite part, if you could, and I'm really intrigued to hear what you say particularly, well, if you could paint the world with a magic brush of biophilia, what would the world look like?
Yeah, I love that question. So I thought it was a difficult one. But first that came to my mind would be like sort of bushcraft architecture.
Wow.
So that's getting rid of all sort of unnecessary technology and, the annoying LED displays. Because they also keep us awake at night. So you probably know that with the orange and blue light, whatever. So yeah, much more back to the basics, no more light pollution, so that we that we are able to see the star-struck sky at night, because that's the moment of awe, like really create a world that we have maximum amount of awe moments. That would be sort of the idea. Also going back to natural ways of heating our houses with clay ovens, whatever, like they are in houses nowadays as well. And designing from availability, that was also something that is really dear. And that would be the bushcraft architecture. It's all there, all the branches. Like, let's see what we can do with them. And that's also much more of a DIY culture, to make stuff your own. The whiteboard you see, I've made my own. That's wood that I found on the street, and that makes you much more proud, of and really fun to look at, because you did it yourself. And then this back to the basics, sitting around a fire at night, swimming in natural waters. And whenever I have the opportunity, I'm camping, whatever, in the morning hours, swimming in a lake. Oh my God, that is just, those moments where everything just falls into place. And having the animals closer to us, and making our own food, all that's as part of the back to basics. Silence, a much more silent world, all this noise around us, we don't even realize what it's doing to us, especially in the cities. And of course, living in tree houses. That is absolutely part of this magic world. And then I finally thought, like, oh, well, that sounds about right. I mean, if you put me in this world of the Lord of the Rings, Lothlorien, Rivendell, the Shire. Yeah, that I think would be a nice summary of like my magic biophilia world that I would hope to incarnate as an elf or whatever. So that, yeah, that's the world I would love to see or see, and that I see in my dreams.
Thank you for listening to the Journal of Biophilic Design podcast.